Pokemon Sun and Moon has come out, and well, a lot of people were surprised at what would happen. And I got the game as well, and I found some very interesting videos of some concept that didn't exactly make it into the games, but I found them very interesting. MQIC, also known as Michael Fortick, this is my top 10 Pokemon evolution ideas. For this video, I am going to view ideas that I found very interesting. I'll do pre as well as regular evolutions. Though note, I will do ones that are possible, not ones that seem possible. So I did find a cool one of a evolutionary Houndoom. That's not possible because it has a Mega Evolution. Also the fact that it's a limit to 3 per evolution line. Number 10. Now, this would seem a bit unfair since I'm adding 2 of them to one list, but there's a reason. Some of these designs are too good to be put any different, but these 2 actually clarify some things. Snubbull is a fairy type. Yeah, I know. Believable, right? Its evolution Granbull is also a fairy type. Originally they were both normal type before Gen 6. How they're fairy, I haven't the slightest bit of knowledge. Now the one thing I wish they would do is make an evolution in which it's dark type, and this design, wow, it is amazing. I mean, it keeps the fairy type in it, which I still don't get, but it also makes it a dark type, and I'm a stickler for unique types. It definitely brings out more of the bulldog in it, you know, considering that bulldogs are really kind of a dark dog. Well, you don't consider them very nice dogs, basically. And yeah, that's one thing I like. Plus, it also brings out the more primary fairy types, because there are only 2 primary fairies, Togetic and Togekiss, both of which are flying. Now, the other one I want to address is Mightyena. Now, Mightyena is based on hyenas, which their spot pattern is pretty much a trademark for a dog of its kind. Mightyena has none, yet an evolution for it, I see, really improves it. Do I need to go any further with it? Just dang cool. Number 9. Stantler is a kind of reindeer Pokemon that was introduced in Gen 2. It's basically a basic normal type, though this concept I found for it was pretty interesting. It kind of shows it more of the basic reindeer idea, in which it's a normal and ice type, which I'm going to say this straightforward while we're ahead of this. I'm a big fan of original dual types that have not been introduced yet. That's the one thing I hope for each generation, and there is no normal ice type. Believe me, I have checked. Plus, when you think about reindeer, the first thing you'd probably think about is Santa Claus, though also you'd probably think of Scandinavian areas with a lot of snow, or Greenland. I'll do more research on that. So basically, the idea of it being a normal and ice type, if it were to evolve, actually makes a lot of sense. Now, I don't know if it would like more anything else. I do question some of the aspects of it, though the antlers on it are also impressive. Number 8. Okay, here's one I found, a Torkoal, which evolves into another turtle, which is a fire and poison type. That's not that impressive, but the only reason I did this is because I had a theory that Turtonator was actually an evolved form of Torkoal. I mean, it makes sense if you compare the 2, and I'm still holding on to that theory because in probably a future generation they could probably introduce like a mid-evolution which would connect the 2. So basically there's much doubt that may happen. I'm still holding on to that theory. I mean, people have the theory about a Dunsparce evolving into Drampa. So it may be possible, kind of like with Chansey, Electivire, and Magmar, that they introduce another generation with another evolution for which would connect the 2. I mean, it makes sense, people. I did find this one for Cacnea evolving into Maractus, so that's not possible because, according to Unova, that it's a bit more isolated compared to the rest of the regions. But still, Torkoal to Turtonator. Press like if you like. Number 7. Trivia. What is the weakest Pokemon? Answer, Sunkern, stat-wise. Sunkern is not really the most impressive Pokemon at all, and when it goes to Sunflora, it's really, I don't know what they were thinking. It's kind of lame. Now, here's something I found. A Sunflora that evolves into a grass and fire type. I couldn't find a good image of it, though the idea of it is impressive because here's an interesting thing. grass types are one type combination away from having complete 18 type combinations, which the type is grass and fire. And sunflowers are tall flowers that grow directly to sunlight, which is kind of where the idea of a sunflower comes from. So it would make sense for a grass and fire type like something past Sunflora to make sense. The design for this one is kind of lame. I don't know, maybe something taller and a bit more flames around it, but just the concept of it is what impresses me the most out of it. I mean, who else wouldn't think about a grass fire plant like that? It would make sense. Anybody want to debate me? Please don't. I don't like it. Number 6, Pachirisu and Emolga. Now I know what you're thinking, but let's go this way. Each generation, they always introduce a new member of the Pikachu family, which is basically an electric rodent. Gen 1, Pikachu, Raichu. Gen 2, Pichu, the pre-evolution of Pikachu. Gen 3, Plusle and Minun. Gen 4, Pachirisu. Gen 5, Emolga, which is also a flying type. Gen 6, Dedenne, which is also a fairy type. I don't know what it's based off of. Gen 7, Togedemaru, which is also a steel type. The one thing is, the only ones that are part of any evolution are Pichu, Pikachu, and Raichu. Aside from that, none of them evolve. Plusle and Minun are their own separate species, and I also found this concept, well, it was kind of getting complicated because I was thinking that wouldn't be possible because they're two separate species evolved into the same type. Well, same thing, I don't know about type-wise. Then I was thinking, what about a pre-evolution? But then they're kind of a bit too small. But the ones I found for Pachirisu and Emolga were very impressive. Pachirisu, I don't know exactly what it's supposed to look like, but it definitely makes it look like a tougher evolutionary form. Kind of like how Pikachu to Raichu, though not many people do like Raichu, more people like Pikachu, but that's out of the question for right now. The Emolga they have, well, it doesn't look like a flying squirrel, though it's kind of like more Daredevil-ish because I'm kind of thinking flying squirrel suit in a way, even though flying squirrels came before those. And I'm kind of thinking a bit more skydiver right here, which kind of looks almost like what you would think when you think of a skydiver going a bit more flamboyant. Well, not all of them do, but more professional ones. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Up the ante a bit. Thinking squirrel suits are pretty hard in themselves. I wouldn't know, I just hear people talk about them. Number 5. I had a hard time choosing which one would go for this place. I mean, the idea of a branched evolution for Sock and Throw makes sense as well. Also this Octillery that was steel type as well. I mean, there were a lot of very impressive ones. Even this Donphan as well. But the one that really caught me the most was this evolution of Rapidash. Now, when you look at Rapidash by itself, not really much, though you can see the unicorn horn on it. So that doesn't take away. But this design really impresses me. I mean, the wings on it, I mean, I don't know much about the mythical stuff. I mean, it's like some kind of Pegasus? Don't judge me, I don't know much about this. So, yeah, it looks pretty impressive. Now, as a pure fire type, I don't know. Levitate as an ability? Too simple. Now, it being a flying type, that would make sense. Though I did find someone who said it would also be a fairy type. Well, it wasn't exactly this design, though someone came up with the idea of it being a fairy type, which is also an original type, which I'm actually more gaining for. So, I'm not exactly so sure which one to go with. Levitate as an ability, though? Maybe. I don't know. Some kind of ground avoidance if it is a fairy type. I mean, flying would make sense because of the wings, but fairy because of the more mythical side of it. I'm not going to go into dragon because dragons are a bit more tougher and this one kind of looks more majestic. That's where the debate comes in for me. I'm going to have to go through my options a bit more to see what I think. Number 4. Psyduck. Does it need any more explanation? Okay, I'll go into it. Psyduck is a water type from Gen 1, which evolves into Golduck. Now, note, it's called Psyduck. There's also a psychic typing. Yet Psyduck is purely a water type. Reason? Probably because of how it's translated in Japan, which is kind of annoying to those who know it by Psyduck. When I was going through this list, well, actually this video, I found not one, but 2 evolutions for Psyduck. The first typing looks impressive by himself, but the second typing, well, second form, that one's impressive. Now, there was also one I found that looked a bit more like, probably a bit more like a Zen Golduck, which is actually Golduck with longer limbs and a purple body, but just the fact that they noted the psychic typing psychic typing for this one was impressive, and I like the first one. Plus, I also like branched evolutions because they give more of a challenge to how you want to evolve them. Although I don't like trying to evolve Tyrogue to Hitmontop. Seriously, that's like the hardest evolution to do. I mean, you don't put an Eevee to Sylveon against the Hitmontop evolution? That ain't easy. Probably spent like 2 months just trying to get one in Omega Ruby. But anywho, it's just impressive. Plus, I want to see kind of more branched evolution. That's kind of a rare thing that they do anymore. There's none in Gen 5. Gen 6, they introduced Sylveon, though not really much there. And for the current generation, even though they do have Alolan forms, I'm not exactly going to count those because they technically count as the same thing, though then again, different types and different forms. But the only ones for the one that actually do a legitimate branched evolution is actually Cosmog's evolved form Cosmoem into Solgaleo and Lunala, which actually is impressive, though kind of a bit overrated and underrated at the same time because it's only a legendary. But still, this would be impressive for like a future generation. I mean, it's impressive to my standards. Number 3. Now, for those of you who probably don't know this, I actually got into Pokemon by looking up the anime. And when I got up to Gen 2, well, it was kind of confusing thing. I didn't understand typings until probably about Gen 4. But when I went back to think about it, I thought Hoot and Noctowl would be psychic types. Well, it turns out they're not, yet somehow they're able to detect ghosts. Now, what is up with that? That doesn't really make much sense. I mean, you'd think there'd be some kind of psychic type. Well, considering that it is a 2-stage evolution, and most normal flying types of generations have a 3rd type like Pidgey, Pidove, Starly, and Fletchling, as well as the most recently introduced Pick-a-Peck, you'd think, hey, why not have a 3rd one? Well, this one I found definitely confirms it as well. A flying psychic Noctowl that kind of reminds me of Great Horn Owl. Probably would think it'd be Mega Evolution, though I don't think it's that good to be Mega. Impressive, though not that good. I'm not disclaiming it, though it's still cool. And also, even cooler part about it is that it also makes it a primary flying type as well as a psychic type. So basically confirming the theory about the psychic type, and the fact for the flying type is there are only 2 primary flying types, Noibat and Noivern, which are from Gen 6. And that only makes it one of the 2nd rarest types as well, along with a pure flying type. So basically, this definitely builds upon it. Plus, when you do think about it with the eyesight of those things, it really would think that you'd see right through you. Woo! Number 2. Lapras is one of those Pokemon that, well, it's just kind of cool in concept. It's like a kind of little cute Pokemon that's also big at the same time. Kind of like a giant teddy bear. And this one was very interesting to find out because everybody, well, at least most people, love dragon types, except for the fact that they're also weak to their own type and the fact that dragon type moves are only super effective against themselves. I'm rambling about something that I need to discuss with myself, but anywho, this concept of a pre and post evolution of Lapras is pretty cool. The pre one, well, it's just a little cute. I see how it's possible that it's only a pure water type because it doesn't look like it's strong, and probably ice types, probably because of the environments in which it migrates to, kind of like how salmon lay their eggs. I don't have a better explanation for that. But the evolution for it is just impressive, and I can see how the dragon type comes into it. The only ice dragon type though is Kyurem, so yeah, ice dragon as a regular one to find is pretty rare. And this one kind of looks very impressive. Now, how to evolve it? That might be a bit hard. I don't know. Have it hold a dragon scale, trade while holding a dragon scale, have it evolve in an icy area. I don't know. That may be just for the pre-lap. Legendary type? Well, maybe pseudo-legendary because most dragon types aren't exactly legendary. Some are pseudo-legendary, some are not. But it's just cool. And that was no pun. Now let's go on to the final one. Number 1. Now, here's 2 interesting Pokemon that you all probably know. Taurus and Miltank. Taurus is a bull Pokemon. Miltank is a cow Pokemon. Interesting thing, Taurus is all male, Miltank is all female. Yet, if you look in the Alolan Pokedex, they're both on the same page whenever you catch either one of them. Now, that would point to the fact that they would come from the same family, though Taurus is a Gen 1 Pokemon and Miltank is a Gen 2 Pokemon. And there's no evolution for them. But I found this one, which definitely takes the top spot in connecting them. It shows a kind of calf-like Pokemon. I don't know, they probably call it like calfling and something? I don't know. But it definitely does show a connection between between the two because they're basically the same species, just different genders, unlike Nidorans. And basically, I kind of see as an evolution for it, like phase, it would kind of evolve at like a certain level and depend on gender. Kind of like Burmy, except for all the Wormadam variations. I don't know what that's about. I mean, that just takes the #1 spot because it just shows something that totally makes sense and is more than likely possible. Probably might have some design variations between male and female calflings because, well, as you can tell by Taurus and Miltank, big difference. I don't know, maybe just like a minor difference, color variation, tail number, I don't know, something like that. Anywho, that's it for our top 10. Goodbye.